In 2007, Nicolas Cage outbid Leonardo DiCaprio for a dinosaur skull. He owned 2 castles, a private island, and a pet octopus worth $150,000. Then the real estate crash hit like a hammer. Within months, the IRS placed liens on everything he owned. His net worth plummeted from $150 million to nothing. Desperate to survive, he accepted roles in 29 straight-to-video films just to pay creditors. But his biggest mistake wasn't buying castles or exotic animals. It was trusting the wrong person with his fortune. The betrayal nearly destroyed him forever. Nicholas Kim Coppola was born on January 7, 1964 in Long Beach, California, into a family where brilliance and darkness collided. His father, August Floyd Coppola, taught comparative literature, and his mother, Joy Vogelsang, was a dancer and choreographer whose German and Polish roots added even more complexity to the bloodline. On his father's side, the lineage was pure Italian. His grandfather was the composer Carmine Coppola, and his grandmother was actress Italia Pennino. That made Francis Ford Coppola his uncle. Talia Shire was his aunt. Sofia Coppola, Roman Coppola, Jason Schwartzman. Those were just his cousins. From the outside, it looked like Hollywood royalty. But inside the house, it was something else. His mother suffered from both schizophrenia and severe depression. And that reality gripped his childhood like a shadow that never let go. He would later say she slipped into long stretches where she didn't remember anything. When he was just 6 years old, she began being institutionalized. By 12, the marriage had collapsed under the weight of her illness. She vanished for years at a time, lost in psychiatric hospitals, undergoing electroshock therapy. He learned to emotionally detach. He studied her episodes like science. That's how he coped. His father raised him in Long Beach. And Nicholas would later explain that children of schizophrenics often became what he called superphrenetics. They were hypervigilant, high-rung overachievers. He said Charlie Chaplin was one of them, too. At 15, he got his first taste of Hollywood. A small role in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Just one of Brad's nameless friends in a burger joint. They credited him as Nicholas Coppola, and it backfired immediately. The crew and cast wouldn't stop mocking him with lines from Apocalypse Now. He was just a kid, the only real teenager on set, surrounded by adults quoting his uncle's movies. Child labor laws cut his hours. The jokes cut deeper. One day, he'd had enough. He changed his name to Nicolas Cage. Half inspired by Luke Cage, a comic book hero. Half by John Cage, the avant-garde composer. He wanted a clean break. The industry saw it as rebellion. Francis Ford Coppola shut doors. Casting agents turned him away, but Cage stuck to it. At 17, he dropped out of Beverly Hills High School. He was tired of classrooms, tired of waiting. He wanted the movies. And when most of his scenes in Fast Times were cut, he took a minimum wage job at the Fairfax Cinema. He sold tickets. He sold popcorn. He stood at the back of the theater between shifts and stared at the screen, asking himself how he'd get from here to there. He later said that's when cinema became everything. He also delivered pizzas. It wasn't glamorous, but it was survival. What saved him wasn't a family name. It was an audition. He was brought in to read lines for actors trying out for Rumblefish. The film was directed by his uncle Francis, but Cage wasn't handed anything. He landed a small role. At the same time, he shot Valley Girl, which came out first and became his real breakthrough. It was a tiny production shot in 22 days for around $350,000. It earned over $17 million. He played Randy, a punk rocker, in a Romeo and Juliet spin. He shaved his chest hair into AV at the director's request. He screamed until veins popped. He made himself unforgettable. The director only made $5,000. Cage made a career. Back on Rumblefish, he dove into the role. He changed his appearance, committed to a specific voice, mannerisms, anything that made the role feel lived in. It didn't matter, it was only a supporting character. He was proving something. Then came The Outsiders. He wanted Deli's role. He locked himself in a room for 2 weeks, staring at a photo of Charles Bronson, trying to be the role. His uncle again turned him down, gave the part to Matt Dillon, and offered Cage a small consolation role. Cage said no. He wasn't interested in handouts. He later appeared uncredited, just to be on set during a background fight scene. When years later The Godfather Part 3 was casting, Francis again passed him over, gave the role to Andy Garcia. That wound never closed. In 1984, he took on Cotton Club again under Francis Ford Coppola. The film was chaos. The budget blew up to $58 million. There were over 30 script drafts, 5 of them written in a single 48-hour binge. But the real darkness came off-screen. One of the producers, Roy Ryden, was murdered, shot in the head, then blown up with dynamite. By a hitman. A drug dealer named Karen Greenberger ordered it. She was afraid of losing her $50,000 dowled or cut. The case became known as the Cotton Club murder trial. Cage, just 20, was thrown into the center of Hollywood's underbelly. That same year, he did Birdie. He played a wounded Vietnam vet. To feel the pain, he had 2 baby teeth pulled without anesthetic, then wrapped his head in bandages for 5 weeks, slept in them, lived in them. When he finally took them off, his skin was wrecked. Acne, ingrown hairs, but the camera saw something real. Birdie didn't make much money, but it won the grand jury prize at Cannes. Cage proved he would go through hell for a role. He wasn't slowing down and racing with the moon. Also in 1984, he acted opposite Sean Penn's set during World War II. Coming of age, Cage played a wild jock named Nicky. In one scene, Penn's character punched a rich kid for nearly hitting them with a bowling ball. Cage cleaned the blood off the guy's girlfriend. For another scene, Cage cut himself with a knife to get into the emotion. It was dangerous, but directors started to see what he could bring. In 1986, he transformed again for The Boy in Blue, a Canadian biopic about a 19th-century rowing champion named Ned Honland. Cage gained up to 30 pounds of muscle, learned how to row, trained like a real athlete. The film bombed at the box office, but he got nominated for a Genie Award, Canada's version of the Oscars. Even in failure, he stood out. Then came Peggy Sue Got Married, another Coppola film. Another mess. Cage played Charlie, the romantic lead, and made the wild choice to give his character a strange nasal voice based on a clay horse named Pokey from The Gumby Show. It infuriated his co-star, Kathleen Turner. She begged Francis to stop him. Cage also wore fake teeth. Turner was miserable. The crew worked 20-hour days, 6 days a week under a tight deadline that Francis couldn't miss. When the movie came out, the performance was so strange that even Francis later said he regretted approving it. It was the last time they worked together. In 1988, Nicolas Cage starred in one of the strangest performances ever captured on film. In Vampire's Kiss, he played Peter Lowe, a delusional literary agent spiraling into madness. Convinced he was turning into a vampire. To bring the insanity to life, Cage didn't just act strange, he swallowed live cockroaches. Not 1, not 2, but 3. The director made him do a second take just to mess with him. And the original script didn't even call for bugs. It was supposed to be raw eggs. But Cage, inspired by A.Z. Osbourne biting the head off a bat in 1982, pushed for something more shocking. Years later, in 2023, Cage would admit he deeply regretted it, saying he'd never do it again. But that moment, as disturbing as it was, became a stepping stone for what Cage would later call his nouveau shamanic acting method, a style defined by wild eyes, loud outbursts, and physical extremes. Just a year before the cockroach madness, Cage had already shown a very different side in Moonruck. Released in December 1987, the film paired him with Cher in a Brooklyn romance full of humor and heartbreak. He played a hot-headed one-handed baker who steals his brother's fiancée's heart with raw passion and one unforgettable line. Snap out of it. The film won 3 Oscars, including Best Actress for Cher, Best Supporting Actress for Olympia Dukakis, and Best Original Screenplay for John Patrick Shanley. Cage was nominated too, and the movie was a box office hit, proving he wasn't just weird, he could move people. Then came 1990, and with it 2 more roles that couldn't have been more different. First was Firebirds, a military action film where Cage played Jake Preston, an elite U.S. Army helicopter pilot. It was his first true action movie, released May 25, 1990, and filmed using real Apache helicopters with help from over 100 military personnel. Despite all the realism, the movie earned just over $6 million opening weekend, and critics bashed it as a Top Gun knockoff with helicopters. Still, Cage powered through, showing he was willing to dive into explosions and cockpit drama just as hard as he had thrown himself into road cheating. That same year, Cage took a wildly different turn in David Lynch's Wild at Heart. He played Sailor Ripley, a snakeskin jacket-wearing, Elvis-obsessed lover on the run with Laura Dern. That jacket wasn't just a costume.